what is the simultaneous election about? The election expenditure, both official and the party expenditure, will hopefully come down because of this. These are some of the benefits. But guys, what are the issues? If we conduct the elections together, there is a big problem that the regional issues can be subsumed under the overall national issues. What if a government falls? After 2 years, will you keep a state under president's rule for 3 years? What if the central government falls after 1 year? Will there be a caretaker government for the balance 4 years? What is the way forward in a centrist way? And one possible solution. Hi everyone, welcome. In fact, 3 years ago, I had made a video on simultaneous elections. And I thought I will just quickly summarize that for the benefit of all our viewers now, because there is a lot of news about simultaneous elections that you must be reading in the newspapers today or in the recent times. So there is a committee which has been constituted under the chairmanship of the former president, Shri Ramnath Kovind, for giving recommendations on how can simultaneous elections be held for the Lok Sabha, the Legislative Assembly, and they have included even the local bodies in that terms of reference. But what is the simultaneous election about? See, when India gained independence, the first 4 general elections, which was in 1952, 57, 62, 67, once every 5 years elections has to happen for Lok Sabha, for electing the central government, and the Legislative Assembly of the state from which the state government is formed. The elections to all the states was held along with the Lok Sabha, obviously. No, it was by default, right? Because we went for elections together, both the center and the states, and it continued like that. But in the 2019 elections, if you look at it, only 4 states went for polls along with the Lok Sabha elections. Sikkim, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh and one other state. Only these 4 states, Arunachal if I am not wrong, only these 4 states went for polls. So which means every year there are state elections that are happening. Now this has some issues. What are the issues? The cost of conducting the elections, right? The estimate is that for conducting the general election alone, last 2019, the official expenditure, I am not talking about the expenditure of the political parties and all, the official expenditure was close to 4,000 crores. And every state election, depending on the size of the state, may cost 1,000 crores or 500 crores or 300 crores. So there's a lot of money that is spent if elections were to happen separately. That is one issue. Secondly, the permanent campaign mode, because elections are happening regularly, right? There is always a campaign that is happening at one part of the country or the other. And guys, this has a huge effect on governance. And I personally feel it also creates more divisions in the society, because you are fighting a competitive election, somebody makes a statement, somebody makes a counter statement, people polarize in the name of religion, in the name of caste, and this happens quite often because there is always an election that you are fighting. So I think regular elections and frequent elections for various states across the years has an impact on the cohesion in the society also, in my personal opinion. But more importantly, from an administrative point of view, having worked in the IAS for a few years, I know that when elections come, the district administration comes to a standstill. Even 2, 3, 4 months before the elections, everything in the district administration revolves only around the election, right? And it is your usual, when something very, very urgent and important is happening, we usually postpone the other things, which are also equally important, but we say, okay, that can wait after the elections. So there is training, there is district administration, which is maintaining, revising the electoral rolls, so on and so forth. So, so when the elections happen separately for Lok Sabha, separately for Assembly, I am leaving out the local body elections. I think it is too far-fetched to link it along with the Lok Sabha and Assembly elections. But the constant, the consuming of time for the district administration is significantly higher. And these are some real issues which we face because of frequent elections. So there is a case for combining the elections, so that the paramilitary forces and the other forces which are used for maintaining law and order during elections, they don't have to be disturbed frequently. The district administration will not be disturbed because of conducting elections, or its routine will not be disturbed because of conducting elections quite frequently. There need not be permanent campaign mode. The election expenditure, both official and the party expenditure, will hopefully come down because of this. These are some of the benefits. But guys, what are the issues? The first and foremost is that we are a federal country. There is a central government and there are state governments, and not for a second anybody should assume that the central government is superior or more powerful than the states. Both of them derive their powers from the Constitution, and we are a huge subcontinent which is multilinguistic, multi-ethnic and so on and so forth. The problems of one part of the country is different from problems of the other part of the country. We are one country, no doubt. There's a central government to spearhead the entire country's development, but each state government is responsible for its state people. And so, if we conduct the elections together, there is a big problem that the regional issues can be subsumed under the overall national issues, which is not good. Number one. Number two, we are a parliamentary democracy. So there can be inherent instability in an elected government. What if a government falls? After 2 years, will you keep a state under president's rule for 3 years? That is not democracy. What if the central government falls after 1 year? Will there be a caretaker government for the balance 4 years? That is not democracy. So it cannot happen like that. And elections serve as an important feedback mechanism to the government. There are a lot of measures which are taken by the government as a feedback based on one election. The central government may make some changes because of the feedback they get from a state election results. The state governments may do some changes because of the feedback that they get from a parliamentary election results. So there is a good reason why elections should not be clubbed together in one go, but at the same time, there are very important benefits which come because of simultaneous elections, no doubt. So how do we mix the both, find a centrist solution? And more importantly, guys, this is not a problem of just some state governments or central government. Central governments have fallen before the 5-year period. There have been, Mrs. Indira Gandhi recommended the early dissolution of Lok Sabha in the 1970, resulting in an earlier election in 1971. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee recommended an earlier dissolution of Lok Sabha in January 2004, because of which there was an early election in May 2004. Coalition governments have fallen in 1991, in 1997, in 1998, because of which there have been elections which have been necessitated. Use of Article 356 has been one of the reasons why this cycle got affected. But similarly, state chief ministers have also asked for advancement of elections. So there is no point in blaming any one set of people for why this cycle got broken. Now, what is the way forward? In a centrist way. And one possible solution, which is something which a leading economist had also suggested in a newspaper, and which the Niti Aayog and the Law Commission had also suggested something similar, which is clubbing of election cycles. And the best way to do it probably would be to have a Lok Sabha election once, let's say, on day 0. And after 2.5 years, have all the assembly elections together, so that that feedback mechanism is not disturbed. At the same time, there are not too many frequent elections which results in multiple campaigns and expenditure and disturbance of district administration, etc. And then again, at the end of 5 years, Parliament Lok Sabha election will happen. Again, the cycle every 2.5 years. And there can be a requirement that even if any government falls in between, it should be clubbed with the next cycle, which happens after 2.5 years. Until such time, there can be a consensus national government or a consensus state government which can be elected by the Lok Sabha or the Assembly, as the case may be. You are getting my point? So let's say a central government falls after 1 year, but the Lok Sabha has to elect. Why will a central government fall? Because the ruling party or the ruling coalition loses its majority in the Lok Sabha. But then somebody has to be a consensus candidate prime minister who has to be elected for the balance 1.5 years, and the election should happen only with the next cycle. And similarly at the state level, if a government falls in between, there has to be a consensus chief minister who is elected and ministers who work along with them till the next cycle. So this can have the benefits of both the aspects that I discussed. Not frequent elections, ensuring that there is some element of scheduling for the elections. At the same time, the feedback mechanism and the federal structure of the country is also maintained. Thanks for watching. Thank you.